Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am so pumped you're joining us because we're unpacking a truly fascinating framework today, specifically focusing on Chapter 2, the principle of accumulation. We're going to explore how the seemingly totally mundane moments of our daily lives are actually the exact building blocks for some profound, unshakable mental strength. We'll be diving deep into how gathering knowledge, facing setbacks, and really reflecting on our experiences can fundamentally transform who we are. So let's just dive right in.
I want to kick things off by throwing a question your way. Are you just passing time today, or are you accumulating? It's kind of a provocative thought, right? We so often think about our lives purely in terms of these grand milestones, graduations, big promotions, major life events. But the philosophy we're looking at today completely flips that on its head. It basically asks us to look at this exact Tuesday or Thursday or whatever day it happens to be for you right now and realize that the quiet hours of today are literally shaping the ultimate foundation of your character.
Our source material for this explainer is a really compelling text called Fudoshin, which translates to Unshakable Mind by Ryuho Okawa. Right from the jump, the author gives us this brilliant visual metaphor. He says an unshakable mind isn't something you just magically achieve overnight. It's exactly like an iceberg. The part you actually see above the water, the composure, the wisdom, the outward strength, that is completely reliant on a massive, unseen foundation built way down deep below the surface. And how exactly do you build that submerged ice? Through the quiet, relentless, daily process of accumulation.
All right, Section 1, the meaning of today or building the iceberg. To actually construct this iceberg, we've got to totally reevaluate how we view a single 24-hour period. Life is really just a continuum of single days. Think about it. You don't live a whole life all at once. You only ever live a today. To drive this home, the text references that famous quote from Jesus, "Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof." Now, what's super interesting is how the author interprets this. It essentially means the struggles, the anxieties, the mundane tasks of today, those are exactly what you need to be focusing on. How we handle today's distinct immediate challenges is what determines our entire overarching life path. We can't control tomorrow, and we sure can't edit yesterday. Our absolute only point of power, our only chance to accumulate ice for our iceberg is right now.
Moving right along to Section 2, Power of the Useless and the Art of Charging.
So, if daily life is all about accumulation, what exactly are we accumulating? Well, we're basically charging our mental and spiritual batteries through continuous input and learning. Let's look at the number 300. The text notes that over the course of just a single decade, the author published over 300 books. That's huge. People constantly asked him, how is it even possible to produce that much without running completely dry? His answer was incredibly simple, but really profound. He said the well never ran dry, simply because he absorbed way more than he ever put out.
And this leads us to a really fundamental principle in the text, the balance of charging versus discharging. You absolutely cannot discharge, meaning output, produce, or give your energy to others, more than you've charged up through learning and experiencing. The author compares this directly to your bank account. Just like you can't spend more cash than you actually have without going into debt, you can't output continuous wisdom or creative energy without consistently accumulating knowledge first.
But here is where the source introduces a totally counterintuitive yet amazing idea. It's called the utility of the useless. In our modern, super efficiency-obsessed world, we usually only want to learn things that have a direct, immediate, practical application, right? But the text argues that acquiring knowledge or going through experiences that seem completely useless in the moment is actually absolutely vital. Why? Because this useless accumulation creates this massive safety margin in your mind. It buffers you against life's sudden, unexpected shocks.
The author uses this perfect metaphor to explain it, a tightrope walker. Picture a tightrope walker doing their thing way up high. Down below them is a wide safety net. Now, the walker never actually steps on that net. So, in a purely functional mechanical sense, while they're walking, the net is technically useless. But psychologically, the mere presence of that unstepped-upon net is exactly what gives the walker the mental balance and the confidence they need to actually cross the wire. In the exact same way, your accumulated useless knowledge acts as your psychological safety net.
Okay, on to Section 3, Suffering as a Whetstone, Polishing the Soul.
So, what actually happens when the tightrope walker falls? A really crucial concept in this framework is finding your bottom. The source impartially observes that reaching rock bottom, whether that's through a severe illness, losing a job, or going through a devastating heartbreak, it actually serves a profoundly important purpose. It acts as a whetstone. It's literally designed to polish the soul. It lets a person solidify the absolute ground of their mind. Because once you finally hit the bottom and realize, okay, I literally cannot fall any further, you discover exactly how much you can endure. That rock bottom, that becomes the new, unshakable foundation of your iceberg.
During these dark periods of hardship or obscurity, the text advises some deep, deep patience. It shares this great quote from the historical Japanese figure Katsu Kaishu. He essentially said, if you are truly a person of value, society is eventually going to need you, so wait 7 or 10 years if you have to. The big takeaway here is that when you feel sidelined by life, you shouldn't just despair. Instead, you've got to use that quiet, painful time to patiently polish your inner self, accumulate your strength while you're waiting in the wings.
On the flip side, what happens if we suffer but we don't have this mindset of accumulation? The text gives us this rather stark, cautionary metaphor of a fly trapped in a glass box. Without the wisdom to actually understand the purpose of their suffering, people in distress act exactly like this fly. They just blindly bounce around the box, constantly banging their heads against the glass of their own complaints, their unfulfilled desires, and resentments. They are entirely unaware of the much bigger picture of their own spiritual growth. To sum up the text stance on this, our true character is not visible when things are just okay. No way. It's revealed entirely at the extreme poles of life, at the dizzying absolute peak of success, and at the crushing bottom of despair. Drawing some parallels to the biblical figure Job, the author asserts that true spiritual endurance is tested when our fortunes dramatically, suddenly shift. Can you actually remain humble when you're at the top and still stay hopeful when you're at the bottom? That right there is the mark of an accumulated, unshakable mind. Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, Sharing Wisdom with Others and the Cycle of Reproduction. This is probably the most uplifting point of the whole framework. What is the ultimate purpose of all this personal resilience we've been building? The source is incredibly insistent about this. Accumulation is never, ever meant for selfish hoarding. Gathering vast knowledge, surviving terrible hardships, building this strong mind, it must never end in just mere self-satisfaction. I mean, if your iceberg only exists to make you feel superior to everyone else, you've kind of missed the point of the philosophy entirely. Instead, the text heavily encourages readers to leave behind a real legacy. It uses the phrase, storing treasures in heaven, which it defines as acting with pure intentions to truly be of service to a greater good. All that knowledge you accumulate and the hard-won lessons you pull from your suffering, they are meant to be left behind as vital nourishment for future generations. You're basically building a guiding light for the people who are going to walk the path after you.
Let's quickly walk through how this entire cycle operates in practice. Step 1. You actively gain knowledge and varied life experiences. Step 2. Inevitably, you're going to face setbacks and suffering, but you use them as a whetstone. Step 3. Through deep reflection, you synthesize those raw experiences into profound personal wisdom. And finally, Step 4. You reproduce that wisdom. You teach, you guide, and you actively apply what you've learned strictly for the happiness and betterment of others. Basically, raw experience goes in, and collective human elevation comes out.
And that brings us to our final thought. I really want to turn this philosophical framework directly back onto you for a second. Think about the struggles you face today, or maybe that random bit of useless knowledge you picked up earlier. Ask yourself, how will you reproduce today's experiences for someone else tomorrow? Because every single day is a chance to add to your iceberg, and ultimately, it's a chance to become someone else's safety net. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep accumulating out there, and I'll see you next time.